There was this tweet that maybe flew under the radar. I want to give a big shout out to my team for actually getting this. It happened a few days ago, at least a few days from when I recorded this. Don't know when you're seeing it, but check this out. So CBR is in new hands. It's tied to that same company. I think they own Screen Rant as well. And CBR is not. We actually right now we don't really have a news-based comic book medium that people are just like doing legitimate reports on the entire industry. That's not what it is that we have. We have people that have their own agendas, and oftentimes that interferes with how they cover certain things. And just because the nature of how news media has changed, and definitely in terms of how it's monetized, people feel like they don't even have the incentive to certainly do it. Now, we've already seen examples of this. And really, like with the CBRs of the world now, they're acting as almost like promotional plants for the like approved establishment type of cats. So whether it be Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, all those guys, they'll cover, of course, all that stuff, and they'll do it rather in a more positive light. However, they're not, and they will. We've seen this. They have people that work for them that know, for example, with the Rippaverse, and I'm going to read through this, and this is an example. I'm not just using this because I'm trying to hype myself up. No, I'm just showing this as an example of them and their individual bias getting away. Last year, definitely in the independent scene, the Rippaverse was the biggest story in comics. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. We made more money than all these cats. We sold more books than all of these cats in terms of what they deem as a graphic novel, with us pushing over 60,000 books. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. However, because they don't like myself, and more importantly, they don't like the people that like me, they have made it abundantly clear. We used to share those tweets where they're saying like, we're not going to cover it. Not like they're not like, they don't like to cover people that are in our circle. And that's not objective. That's not news. That shows that you don't actually care about the industry. And I'm not saying that they're obligated. I'm saying that this is not a news platform. The former owner of CBR, and that's Jonah Whelan. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, Jonah. He says, this is fascinating. They deleted the tweet, so I can't show you the tweet that he's referring to, but we're going to read through some of these. He says, when I owned CBR, I was focused on disseminating news that was just the facts. Says, not saying that we were perfect, and we published plenty of opinion pieces, but tried hard to keep the two separate. When you look at the traffic stats, well, it became clear around 2010, 2011 that the majority of our traffic came from junk food, basically stuff that is not, it's not the glitz and the glamour, the top tens, the hey, we're gonna overhype this book that's coming out of this event, and we're gonna pretend to be stoked, even though that isn't really genuine. It says the occasional fact-based journalistic pieces would take off, but for the most part, the traffic of those pieces languished, while top 5 idiotic things would generate traffic for weeks. We still did plenty of fact-based reporting, but upped the junk food because it paid the bills. Like I said, that's talking about the monetization. That's what was getting them the clicks, and which is hilarious. You see these journalists, you see these like people that don't like us, who say that we're hate mongering, we do stuff for clicks and all that. And I'm like, dude, almost every news platform or platform that's masquerading as a news website or magazine or whatever, newspaper, they literally do it for the clicks. Especially in the case of access media like the CBR guys, they know that they're going to get those, whether it be with the top 5 stuff or the early access stuff. That's what pays the bills for them. We tried to keep it substantive. You can decide how successful we were. It's been 6 years since I sold CBR. Where is the fact-based reporting on the industry? It doesn't exist. Like, you'll have the guys that will, it's like, hey, here's the preview, and this is what we think about this. It's not like, I mean, even with the whole, like, being honest with the industry and the fact that, well, in the terms of unit sales, it's been on the decline for a while now. It has. It's not my opinion. That's a fact. You can go 2016, 2017, 2018, going into 2019. It's been a decline in unit sales. They're going to always boast the numbers because, they're the sales, because, number one, there was a price increase. But more importantly, they can take credit for stuff like manga. So they'll act like, well, all is good. He said still I see Comics Beat still does a few, two others occasionally. And when you say some, I mean, look, Heidi and all those guys over there will certainly do their opinion. And a lot of it's, again, still remaining oblivious to what the industry is. To be fair, if this is true of news media in all categories, verticals, maybe 5-10% in category do real journalism, the rest is junk. But that's not the worst part. The worst part, it's highly unlikely anything will change. It's more important than ever that fact-based journalism exists in every category, but the traffic results just aren't there. And some of that is like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it that you were providing this for people to consume, and they kind of, got attracted to that, and that's what they now expect? So it's going to be, the longer that you do that, the more difficult it is going to be to change the course. So is that your own doing, or is that something that, was it at a cultural change? Whatever it was. A good opinion piece based on breaking news can easily outperform 5 news 5 times or more, which gives rise to opinion-only sites contributing little more than I have thoughts. Sometimes correct, oftentimes driven by individual and or institutional bias. Respect to Jonah for admitting this, because this is the case. And I don't know his guy's politics or anything like that, but he's right. For better or worse, those end up dominating the discussion. Slowly, those sites doing the hard work will change or simply disappear. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said before. It's been the state of news media for a long time. I appreciate the folks like Brian clamoring for more, but realistically, we're SOL. Look, I'm with you right there, Jonah, on this whole ordeal. I wish there were more news-based facts, more intriguing interviews, objectivity that was in comic books. The industry actually, I think, could use it. But the trick is trying to figure out for them, like, how do you monetize it? And I don't know if it's going to come from a platform that already exists, because now you have the expectation that people are going to go for the more opinion stuff for the platform that now it dominates. It may have to come from a whole new news organization or platform that says that we're going to take it upon ourselves to be objective. And just cover what's happening in the industry and being honest with ourselves. Look, the fact that you got all these supposed journalists who care so much about the industry, and right now you have a situation like we have where nobody actually knows what books are selling what. Nobody knows. Even to the stores, nobody knows. And these reporters, some of them are mentioning it, but it's not like anything that's being like aggressive, like boots on the ground, like going to Lunar and figuring out why the hell are y'all like this. Lunar doesn't report their numbers. Penguin Random House doesn't report their numbers. Diamond stopped in April of last year. It's almost been a full year. We're closing in a full year since the last time that you got sales reports from the distributors. And it's not like the companies that print them, be it Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, again, Image, all those cats. None of those guys are Boom Studios. They're not letting the audience know what they did, how much they printed, how much they sold to the distributors. They're not letting anybody in on that. Like, that's a fundamental problem, right? That stuff like that is happening right now. However, you got cats that are, because there's no true journalism anymore, just letting it go by the wayside. It's just something that's a thing. The trick is updating your economic model and figuring out how to monetize it. And I'm not saying that I have all the answers. It may be something that I can't possibly perceive or something I can't think of, but it has to happen if you want to get back to some sort of legitimate journalism. You have to figure out, how do we monetize it? How do we ensure our journalists eat, and all of that. But the direction that they're going in now is certainly not going to hit. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.